Tomorrow, if the banks stop supporting them, they'll have a power crisis.
The finance minister calls on states to revive power distribution companies as they seek yet another lifeline. The power ministry mulls extending repayment moratorium to 5 years and slashing the interest rate on loans. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
To my mind, India is on the right course, the right direction. We just need to accelerate this further.
1 year after launching the Make in India initiative, the Secretary at the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Amitabh Kant, says FDI inflows have risen by 48%. Also promises big ticket investments from the likes of Foxconn and Samsung in the next 7 months. That's an exclusive.
Cognizant beats all its peers with its quarterly earnings. Profits and revenues beat estimates. Margins on target. Revises guidance upwards for the second straight quarter.
In a bid to revive BSNL, Cabinet decides to hive off about 65,000 towers into a separate entity. BSNL and MTNL will also get over 600 crore rupees as compensation for CDMA spectrum surrendered earlier.
There's a big green hurdle for the Adani Group in Australia. A federal court quashes the environmental clearance given to the company's coal mines and rail project.
I don't think ये महीनों की बात है, सालों की बात है.
पीडीए में सालों की बात है.
दोनों सालों की बात है.
The Monetary Policy Committee and the Public Debt Office will take years to be set up, says the RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan. Reiterates his stance against the governor having a veto in the proposed committee. That's an exclusive.
Trade deal between India and the European Union is on the rocks. India defers talks with the EU, says it's disappointed with the ban imposed on 700 pharma products. EU says it hasn't heard from the Indian government.
Star India exits Balaji Telefilms, sells 26% stake in the company for 108 crore rupees. Ekta Kapoor and Shobha Kapoor amongst the multiple buyers.
Loop Telecom was a front company for SR in the 2G auctions, tells the CBI to the special court. Claims SR exercised significant influence into Loop's telecom decision-making.
Also on this show, Maruti unveils the S-Cross with a starting price of 8.3 lakh rupees. The company claims this car can clock a mileage of over 19 kilometers a litre.
The government led by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi ji is trying to steer the Indian economy. This current year we are putting 25,000 crores into the banks. Next year another 25,000 crores. Thereafter 10,000 and 10,000 for 2 years, 70,000 crores. And then we will issue additional capital and raise another 1,10,000 crores from the market and recapitalize the banks to the extent of 1,80,000 crores. There are some state governments.
हम डेमोक्रेटिक लोग हैं, हम लोकतांत्रिक लोग हैं. स्पीकर का डिसीजन हमें अच्छा नहीं लगा, मगर हम उनकी पोजीशन मानते हैं. उन्होंने हमें बाहर भेजा है, हम यहाँ बाहर बैठे हैं.
I only appeal to all opposition parties, please come back to Parliament.
जब तक सस्पेंडेड एमपीज को सह सम्मान वापस नहीं लिया जाता है, तब तक संसद का कामकाज होना मुश्किल है.
कांग्रेस पार्टी के जो लगभग 25 एमपी जो निलंबित किए गए हैं, तो ये उचित नहीं है.
Government should be more accommodative, magnanimous to concede certain demands raised by the parties in opposition.
Well, the Congress party has raised the pitch against the government after boycotting the Lok Sabha for the second day. Top leaders, including Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, took to the streets shouting slogans against the government. With the standoff intensifying, we saw some business being conducted in the Lok Sabha with a supplementary demand for grants bill being passed. But the future of the GST and other crucial legislations hang in the balance. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Hi, Nandara.
Hi, Shirin. And the question everyone asking is that, is any side going to blink? Which side is going to blink first, if any side at all?
Well, it's also say the Speaker is considering the matter of revoking the suspension imposed on the 25 MPs. But for now, Parliament is a house of chaos. From New Delhi to Mumbai, a quick check of the day's trading action now. And the bulls continue to call the shots on the Lal Street. The market surging in trade with the major indices clocking healthy gains. The Nifty up 50 points near the crucial 8,600 mark. The Sensex put on 150 points and now sitting comfortably above the 28,000 level. There is simply no stopping the mid-caps as the mid-cap index continues to outperform. But speaking of outperformance, IT major Cognizant has reported its second quarter numbers for 2015 today. Revenues at $3.09 billion. It's a 6% gain on a sequential basis and the highest ever incremental sequential revenue for the company. This is also the highest in the industry this particular quarter. The company's guidance is also confidence inspiring. In fact, joining us to talk more about Cognizant's numbers and the road ahead is Francisco D'Souza, the Chief Executive Officer of Cognizant, joining us live from the NASDAQ. Frank, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. And once again, congratulations on another stellar set of numbers there for the company. But let me talk to you about the outlook that you are currently seeing, because you're clearly much more confident about the road ahead in comparison to your peers. If you can give us a sense of the deal pipeline as well as budgets.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know, we had a terrific quarter, as you said, the strongest sequential growth in the history of our company. We added $174 million of incremental revenue this quarter compared to the last quarter. And I think that the broad theme this quarter across the industries and geographies that we serve is the theme of digital. We're winning in digital. Our clients are increasingly looking and turning to large-scale digital transformation, and they're looking to implement innovation at scale, and we're able to help them. So the pipeline is strong based on the back of these new digital technologies that we're seeing. We're helping our clients make that transformation, and we feel good about the business looking forward.
Frank, if I can just get you to give us more color as far as the digital side of your business is concerned, because as you pointed out, you're winning larger deals in digital. Could you quantify that for us? What kind of deals are we talking about? What size are we talking about? And also, you've spoken about executing digital transformation. You know, when you say digital transformation, again, if you can quantify that a little bit more for us, because that's the space that your peers are also trying to sort of get a foothold into, and you seem to have made much more progress.
You know, as you know, we're going through a once-in-a-decade shift in the technology landscape. There are these new digital technologies on the horizon: social, mobile, cloud, analytics, the Internet of Things. All of these are enabling our clients that move fast to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And so our clients are looking across their business to say, how can they apply these digital technologies for competitive advantage? And they're turning to us to help them in that journey. I would say that we made investments in this space early. We recognized this trend at least 5 years ago, and as a result of that, we think we've got the leading capability in this space to help our clients as they go through those transformations.
In terms of investments, Frank, you've said that you made those investments early on as far as the digital side of the business is concerned. But in terms of incremental investments, what do you envisage now as far as the coming few quarters are concerned?
You know, we're really investing in 4 key areas to address our clients' needs. The first is that we continue to look at building out our digital capabilities across the world. We have very strong capabilities. Now we're looking to scale those in digital across all of the geographies that we serve. So we're looking at Asia. We're looking at scaling up our digital capabilities in Europe. So that's the first set of investments. The second set of investments that we continue to make is in building out our consulting capability. We have a very strong consulting business at the moment, and we intend to continue to build that out. It's become a core competitive differentiator for the company. We continue to invest in automating and optimizing our traditional services using new advanced automation technologies that are based on advanced automation and artificial intelligence. And finally, we're investing in building out platform-based solutions, or so-called utility models, so that we can share the cost of making these investments across multiple clients in an industry.
Okay. Frank, if I can get your comments in as far as your margins are concerned, because they've come in at 20.1%, and that is higher than the band that you had guided off between 19 to 20%. I would imagine that you've been able to eke out a little more on account of the higher utilization rates, perhaps even currency. But if you can give us some sense of the margins going forward and whether you can squeeze more on the utilization front.
You know, our strategy as a business, as you know, has always been to maintain our operating margins in the 19 to 20% range and use the excess to reinvest back into the business. As I look forward, I expect our margins for the rest of the year to be in the 19 to 20% range, certainly not above that range, because we'll continue to invest in the business. We'll continue to do the things that we need to do to stay competitive in the marketplace. So I don't expect that the margin will be outside of the 19 to 20% range as I look to the rest of the year.
Given the kind of order inflows that you are seeing and given the visibility that you currently have, you've been able to, for the second straight quarter, improve on the guidance that you'd held out. Do you believe that you could improve on it in the coming quarter as well?
You know, we are very optimistic about the demand environment. Our record performance in the second quarter gives us a great deal of confidence in the guidance that we provided. We took our guidance up by $90 million this quarter to $12.33 billion, which represents about at least 20.1% year-over-year growth for the full year. Baked into that guidance is a little bit of conservatism on account of the fact that the healthcare industry in the United States is going through some consolidation. There have been a number of mergers and acquisitions that have been announced in the past 4 or 5 weeks. So we've built a little bit of conservatism into our guidance to account for that. But overall, I would say that the demand environment is strong, and there are more tailwinds in the business at the moment than there are headwinds.
So given the fact that you're saying you've consciously decided to be a little more conservative as far as your guidance is concerned, there is a good chance that you could improve on it or better it.
You know, I think we've been prudent at the moment, you know, given the consolidation that's going on in the healthcare industry. We think it's appropriate and wise to adopt a more conservative and prudent stand. And as this plays out over the course of the rest of the year, certainly if we see that playing out in our favor, we'll update our guidance as we go forward.
What about the other sides of your business, financial services in particular? You've seen a 7.7% quarter-on-quarter growth as far as your financial services side is concerned. Do you believe that that is likely to continue, that kind of performance?
You know, I think that the financial services industry overall is recovering nicely from the financial crisis. We're seeing banks around the world, financial institutions, in far more healthy shape than they've been in many, many years. And they're now starting to turn their attention again to developing and deploying digital technologies in areas such as digital banking, online banking, online payments, and so on and so forth. And so as we look to the digital revolution and we look at financial services, I think you'll continue to see healthy growth there.
Also, if you can talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing across different geographies. The North America business is up by about 5.8%. Europe is up by about 5.5%. Do you expect an even better performance as far as the European market is concerned? And if you can speak to us about what you're witnessing as far as particular geographies are concerned in terms of the outlook and the strength of the deal pipeline.
Yeah. You know, across the geographies in the world, all of our clients are experiencing this dual mandate, where on the one hand, they're looking for our services that help them run more efficiently, more effectively, and on the other hand, they're looking at innovation and growth and deploying digital technologies. When we look at our results this quarter, the continental Europe grew very nicely, grew close to 8%, and so on a sequential basis. And that's because we see strong demand in the continent, both for traditional outsourcing services and also digital technologies. So I think we'll see strength in the continent. I think Europe overall will do very well. And of course, the North American economy is doing well, continues to recover every day. It gets progressively better. And so I think you'll continue to see strong performance in North America, driven by innovation and digital technology adoption.
Well, speaking of investments, Frank, what is the outlook now as far as further acquisitions and further inorganic growth is concerned? You continue to be fairly acquisitive. Any particular areas that you're focusing on? Any specific portfolio gaps that you would like to fill?
Yeah, you know, we're very pleased with our acquisition program. It's been a key source of advantage for us. It's allowed us to move quickly. Our broad strategy remains unchanged. We're continuing to look for tuck-in acquisitions. At the moment, we're focused on tuck-in acquisitions in a few areas. We're certainly looking at digital acquisitions that will help, particularly as we look to scale our digital capabilities across the world. We look for digital acquisitions in other parts of the world, Europe, Asia, potentially Latin America. And in addition to that, we're always looking for acquisitions that will deepen our presence in the particular industries that we serve, financial services, healthcare, and so on and so forth. And so the pipeline remains strong. We continue to evaluate and assess acquisitions, and I think you'll continue to see us doing acquisitions going forward.
Any broad timelines in terms of targets that you potentially identified, and by when we could hear from you on closing those deals?
You know, I think we have a robust pipeline. You know, and I think we continue to do acquisitions. Timing of acquisitions is always tricky because it depends on many factors beyond those that are necessarily within our direct control. And so I wouldn't want to put a timeline on it. But I think we continue to be active, and I would hope that we'll be able to do some over the course of the rest of this year.
So my final question to you, Frank, you've said that the tailwinds at this point in time are significantly stronger than the headwinds. But if I were to ask you to identify some of the key risks at this point in time, what would those be?
You know, I would point to healthcare. As I said a minute ago, the U.S. healthcare industry is going through a period of consolidation. We think that that's a tremendously strong opportunity for us in the long run because the consolidation is being driven by the industry seeking out more efficiencies and new models for healthcare overall. And so we think that given our TriZetto acquisition, our own intellectual property in healthcare, that we think in the long run healthcare will be a strong market for us, and one where we think we can innovate and provide some really creative solutions. But I do think given the short-term consolidation that's going on, we could see some bumpiness in healthcare in the coming quarters. We haven't seen that to date, except for the announcement that we made a few weeks ago relating to our contract around HealthNet. But beyond that, we haven't seen any short-term impact. But I think it's possible over the next couple of quarters, and so we're watching that carefully.
All right, Frank, we'll have to leave it there. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Here's wishing you the very best of luck, and thanks very much for joining us here live from the NASDAQ on CNBC TV 18. That's Frank D'Souza there taking us through Cognizant's performance, beating all its peers here, at least in the Indian market. Let's now talk about a CNBC TV 18 exclusive tonight. Ailing Discoms are seeking another lifeline from the government, even though the current financial restructuring plan has proved to be ineffective. With Discom debt at a whopping 2.59 lakh crore rupees, a worried government is considering extension of the moratorium on the repayment of loans, as well as a reduction in interest rates to save the day. Anshu Sharma says a final decision will be taken after the committee headed by the Power Secretary submits its report.
8 states, Bihar, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Haryana, Rajasthan, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh are currently under the financial restructuring plan rolled out in 2012 by the UPA government. Despite government intervention, Discoms are saddled with a debt of about 2.59 lakh crore rupees in FY14. The precarious situation has pushed the government to call for a rational tariff policy.
The state governments which have decided not to charge at even the cost for the power are now facing almost, at least there are some state governments whose distribution companies are in a bad shape. Tomorrow, if the banks stop supporting them, they'll have a power crisis. And therefore, the lesson of the story is that users must pay for the services that they obtain. And if the state governments don't get users to pay and think it's only the banks which will support them, then at some stage the banks will face NPAs. The banks will no longer be in a position to lend to businesses.
The finance minister's pitch is not new and reflects the lack of political will to address the issue. The 2012 plan had seen about 1.2 lakh crores being converted to state government-backed bonds. The plan also had a provision for a moratorium of 3 years on repayment to banks. The current financial restructuring plan will end in March of next year, and sources in the Power Ministry have told CNBC TV 18 that the government may look at extending the moratorium on loan repayment by 5 years. Additional measures may include bringing down interest rates on loan repayment from the current 12% to about 8%. These issues are being examined by a committee headed by the Power Secretary P.K. Pujari. The states under the FRP have told the Power Ministry that high interest costs are hurting them and have sought intervention through an interest subsidy on outstanding loans. Meanwhile, 5 states, Rajasthan, UP, Tamil Nadu and Haryana, have sought an extension of the cash gap funding by 5 more years as the tenure ends in September of 2015. The government is aware that without assistance, the fate of the ailing Discoms will be even more uncertain, and so a new restructuring plan is likely on the anvil. In New Delhi, with Anshu Sharma, this is Shireen Bhan.
Moving on, here's an exclusive. The Monetary Policy Committee is work in progress which could take years to fructify. That's the word coming in from the RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan. And it's not just the rate-setting panel. Even the Public Debt Management Agency will not be a reality anytime soon. In this exclusive interview to Network 18's Pradeep Pandya, Rajan also reiterated his stance on why an RBI Governor should not have veto power in the rate-setting panel. Here's that interview.
जब वीटो है तो एक आदमी निर्णय लेता है, वो गवर्नर, और बाकी सारा जो एपरेटस है वो सिर्फ एडवाइस देने के लिए है, और अल्टीमेटली गवर्नर का रिस्पांसिबिलिटी है, क्योंकि उसको कुछ अच्छा नहीं लगता है तो वो वीटो कर सकता है। शायद और लोगों को भी कुछ आइडिया हो, कुछ नॉलेज हो, तो कमेटी में वो नॉलेज शेयर हो जाता है।
फॉर्मेट बताया जा रहा है कि अगर 7 में से 4 मेंबर सरकार की ओर से नॉमिनेट होते हैं।
लेट मी क्लैरिफाई, द IFC कोड प्रोपोजिशन इज नॉट व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट एन अग्रीमेंट विद द गवर्नमेंट व्हिच वाज रीच्ड सेपरेटली and is something that both the government and the RBI feel comfortable with.
तो आप ये कह रहे हैं कि वो उस फॉर्मेट से अलग हटकर एक एग्रीमेंट हुआ है जिसमें RBI का से ज्यादा होगा?
No, I'm not going to go further into it. Government, when it feels comfortable, अभी पार्लियामेंट चल रही है, government has to take a lot of issues into account. At some point, it'll feel comfortable and make the announcement.
रेड्डी साहब ने एक कहानी सुनाई कि जब वो डिप्टी गवर्नर थे, उन्होंने PDMA के लिए एक रिपोर्ट बनाई थी, और गवर्नर जालान जो उस समय थे, उन्होंने कहा कि ये तो नहीं चल सकता जब तक सरकार RBI के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है अपने लोन के लिए मैनेज करने के लिए। तो आप जब ये SLR धीरे धीरे कट कर रहे हैं, क्या आप चाहते हैं कि सरकार की डिपेंडेंस इस तरह से कम की जाए कि RBI की मदद के बिना PDMA काम कर पाए?
PDMA का फायदा तब है जब सरकार मार्केट को डायरेक्टली अप्रोच करती है और कैप्टिव बायर्स नहीं है सिस्टम में। तो जब लोग कहते हैं RBI में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इसलिए है क्योंकि हम रेगुलेटर्स में हैं, हम SLR सेट करते हैं, तो अगर हमें गवर्नमेंट डेट बेचना है तो हम SLR को ऊपर रखेंगे बिकॉज वी वांट अ कैप्टिव ऑडियंस। सो दिस इज द एंटायर रीजन फॉर PDMA। तो if you have SLR high continuing to be high, then there's really no point of PDMA because you still have the captive audience. तो हमें नीचे ले आना है gently, keeping in mind the capacity of the market, so that government can sell debt directly to the market. That will happen over time.
तो जैसे आपका एक मीडियम टर्म महंगाई का टारगेट है, SLR का भी कोई ऐसा टारगेट है कि इस लेवल पर आने के बाद आप कह सकते हैं कि अब जगह बनती है?
मेरे ख्याल में अभी तो नंबर पे हमें थोड़ा एनालिसिस करना है कि और देशों में क्या है, और ये जो लिक्विडिटी रेशियोज हैं बाज़ल के, वो भी देखना है कि हाउ दे फिट इन विद SLR. बट वी कैन कम अप विद अ नंबर. आई एम कॉन्फिडेंट दैट इट इज बिलो वेयर वी आर नाउ.
तो कब तक आपको लगता है कि ये मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी और PDMA की क्या टाइमलाइन है, कब तक हो जाएगा?
मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी तो लेजिस्लेशन पे डिपेंड करती है, क्योंकि पार्लियामेंट हैज टू चेंज RBI एक्ट. विदाउट दैट इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल.
अगले साल भर में भी हो सकती है,
देखते हैं. ऑन PDMA आई थिंक उसमें भी थोड़ा लेजिस्लेशन की बात चल रही है. अगेन आई थिंक सेम टाइम फ्रेम व्हेन पार्लियामेंट कैन एक्ट and how that moves forward. I don't think ये महीनों की बात है, सालों की बात है.
PDMA सालों की बात है,
दोनों सालों की बात है, क्योंकि लेजिस्लेशन चाहिए. लेजिस्लेशन तो में तो टाइम लगता है ना.
That's Governor Raghuram Rajan saying that his agreement with the government as far as the Monetary Policy Committee is concerned, or the RBI's agreement, is different from the IFC and the composition of the MPC as proposed by the IFC. Now let's move on. It's been a year since the Make in India mission was launched. I sat down with the Secretary of the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Amitabh Kant. He's essentially the man driving Make in India. He claims that FDI inflows into India are up by 48% in the last 1 year. He also sees big ticket investments from the likes of Samsung, Foxconn coming into Indian manufacturing in the next 6 to 7 months. However, he said that the defense procurement policy is likely to be out only by the end of the year. Remember, this ought to have been out much earlier, as was promised by Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar since he took office, but there seems to have been more delay, and now the new procurement policy for the defence sector likely only by the end of the year. Listen into that exclusive conversation.
We're looking at about 10 to 12 manufacturing units across India, very large-scale investments.
What kind of investments would that entail?
They're looking at manufacturing across solar, across mobiles, across handheld sets, and they're looking at it as making India a manufacturing base for global supplies. So they need to do their homework right. They are still in the process of detailed interaction, and I think we should give them some breathing time on this.
By when do you expect them to finalize their plans? Terry Gao saying that they still have to deal with challenges related to land, infrastructure, so on and so forth. They've identified several states, and several states are wooing them. But by when do you anticipate that they will finalize their plans? And ballpark, what is the kind of number that they've spoken to you about in terms of investment?
I think it's a very, very large-scale investment. If we are talking about 10 to 12 manufacturing units across.
Can you share with us who are the other big-ticket investors who are likely to finalize their India investment plans? I know before they meet the Prime Minister, they're in your office meeting you. Can you give us a sense of the kind of investments lined up and the marquee names that are likely to invest?
I personally feel that, many big-ticket investments, the Wanda Group from China, the SoftBank, Masai Sison has already invested about close to $2.5 billion in India, but he's looking at very large investments in solar sector. And my personal view is that we are heading for some big ticket investments in the coming 6 to 7 months in India.
Ballpark figure?
My personal view is that India is going to see some major investments on the manufacturing side in the next 6 to 7 months. In the next 6 to 7 months.
Let me ask you about retail, because actually there has been, so to speak, a relief as far as the retail sector is concerned. 49% in multi-brand retail, the FPI route through the automatic window. Again, there is confusion in the mind of investors as far as retail is concerned. On one hand, the policy stands for multi-brand retail. The government says, well, we are not going to smile on investments coming into multi-brand retail. On the other hand, you do this business as far as the composite cap is concerned. What do investors make of whether this government wants retail investments, doesn't want retail investments?
No, Shireen, what's the confusion? I'm not clear. The government policy on multi-brand retail was absolutely clear.
Except the government says it is not in favor of multi-brand retail.
One second. For 49%, FDI, FII was already permitted. All that we've done is we've said through the composite cap that it's permitted through the automatic route. We've just made things easier.
Is there a thought that at least as far as single brand is concerned, the IKEAs of the world, for instance, allow them to go the B2C route on e-commerce?
No, so there's been a lot of interaction. We've been constantly liberalizing the single brand route. We've actually done
further liberalization expected. Are you likely to do away with the sourcing norms, for instance, for single brand?
We've just done this for Nike and Adidas, where we've said that those who have franchisee stores can actually establish their own outlets. Now, the issue of 30% sourcing is something which has been embedded in the policy for a long time. I think that's something which we've got representation on single brand. That's an issue which is being examined.
Is it likely to be diluted or done away with?
Well, I don't think it can be completely done away with.
We've seen a surge as far as defense industrial applications and licenses are concerned. Can you throw some color on the kind of investments that have already come in and what you expect further?
I think huge amount of energy, huge amount of vibrancy. I see a completely new dynamism as far as the defense sector is concerned. We've cleared something like close to 75 new licenses. There's zero pendency as far as licenses are concerned. I see a whole lot of Indian players, Mahindras, Tatas, Bharat Forge, all of them going out, driving manufacturing.
The directed offset policy, where the government is essentially telling people what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. Do you see that as being an obstacle, that being a challenge? Because we've been hearing it for a long time now that we are going to see new procurement norms, and this is, of course, part of that overarching policy. But do you believe that that is the need of the hour to review that?
Yeah. You're quite right. The Defense Ministry has already put out draft procurement rules. There's a committee.
Which, by the way, industry feedback is that it's not making things any better.
Let me tell you that Defense Ministry is extremely well intentioned. They've appointed a committee. That one-man committee is making its recommendation, and I'm quite sure with all the pressure from other ministries as well, we are going to see a very, very liberal and a forward-looking progressive policy in the days to come.
So that's the word coming in there from Amitabh Kant. The new defense procurement policy ought to have been out already, but it is delayed and likely to be out only by the end of the year. On that note, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. From all of us here, goodbye. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Tomorrow, there's a lot of big corporate earnings and other action that we will track for you.